Welcome to the Thriving Christian Artist, the podcast where we hope you connect with God to bust through the roadblocks that have held you back for years, create the work you love, and really live the life you know God created you to live as an artist in His kingdom. I'm Matt Tommy, your host. Let's get started. Well, hey everybody, it's Matt Tommy, and I'm so glad that you're with me today on the podcast. I'm so excited to have my friend Clive Earnhart, who's a part of the Village Potters, right next door to me here in Asheville, and just an incredible guy, and right in the thick of his development journey as a potter. And so, Clive, I'm so excited that you're here with me, man. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, you bet. Good to be here.
Absolutely. We met, I guess, a couple of years ago through a mutual friend, and you were kind of transitioning into doing what you're doing now, which is kind of becoming a potter, starting your career, and that sort of thing. And I just thought today, wow, what a great opportunity to hear from somebody that is right in the middle of developing and pressing into all that God's got for you in your career. So as we were talking a minute ago, you said, "Yep, I'm right in the thick of it." So I'm sure there's a lot going on in your life. But give us a little introduction about what your day looks like, what your life looks like right now, and then maybe we can go back in a minute and talk about how you got there. So,
yeah, I'm in flux, and I'm in this place of change and growth. And so, what does my day look like? It varies upon the day of the week. My wife and I are both starting new businesses, and so I'm doing my ceramic arts business, and while she's at the same time doing her personal care and wellness consultant business. So some days I'm helping my wife wash her equipment and do her things, and then I run to the studio and then put in a couple of hours of work there, and then run back to pick up the kids from school, and then it's kind of chaotic. And so we are working on a rhythm, and if we once we get a little bit of a rhythm, then everything changes again, and we got to start all over again. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's great.
I love it because so many people think, oh, when I get to be a full-time artist, when I get everything's just going to line up perfectly, and you're like, more than likely it's a juggling act for a while, and you're right in the middle of that. So especially with family and your wife starting a business as well. So talk to me a little bit about how you even got to the place of knowing, okay, I want to be a ceramic artist. I want to take the leap. What was life like before this? And kind of give us a little bit about the process of what led you up to making that decision.
Man, a super, lifelong process. I'm 47, and my artistic journey began when I was a kid. I was drawing pictures of my parents' friends when they would come over for a dinner party, and I just always had a creative thread in me, and it had to get out, whether it was drawing or all kinds of mediums. And through high school, I did art class and drawing, and I just felt really like, hey, this is me. I'm an artist. God's made me an artist, and so I decided to go to community college after high school and go towards art, and so that's what I did.
That's so incredible, because I think so many times you hear people saying, I was an artist as a kid, but then some kind of big blockage happened. Either mom and dad thought it was a crazy idea, or a teacher's kind of squelched my dream, or whatever. And so it's so encouraging to hear that you were just, developing all that way and really pursued that all the way into college. So what happened after college then? Did you start pursuing your art? Or because there's you're 47 now, so we're talking 27 years between then and now.
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody squelched my dream. And in fact, it was me. A lot happened during that junior college time. My mom died, and That was a big turning point for me. I was real connected to her, and so that sent me into a tailspin. I didn't know which way was up, and I got a job as a bank teller. I was working at the bank and just trying to figure life out, and I didn't know where I was going. And So, along the lines, I kept doing a little bit of art, and then working at the bank, I just worked my way up, and I just kept getting promotions. And so I thought, hey, I haven't finished my degree yet. What's the right thing to do? What's the right thing I should do? So I decided to go back to school and get a business degree, and because that was the right thing to do.
Right, the safe thing. Everybody says that's good.
Yeah, you bet. So that's where I ended, and so along that journey, I took some classes. Then I had to take an elective. So I'm looking around. What kind of elective can I take? I can take anything. So I decided, hey, I've never taken a ceramics class. That kind of would be. That sounds really easy, really fun. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in a college course in California at Cypress College, and immediately, as soon as I got into that class, like things clicked. Like it was like magic. I met a best friend named Brandon Buchelman, and he loved the Lord like I did. We surfed together, and we both found out that we just fell in love with ceramics. And
Wow.
yeah, it was golden.
So as you were working then for the last 20 years or so, are you doing ceramics as a hobby and that sort of thing and keeping that up, or did it kind of fade away in your life? Or
Yeah, Brandon went on and got his bachelor's in ceramics, and I
mm,
was, but I just couldn't let hold of the security of the bank.
wow,
It was safe, secure, and I was in a rut, and
wow,
couldn't let it go. So, but that this artistic thread wouldn't let go. So along the way, I just kept taking community college class here or there. I did get my bachelor's degree in business, and at that same time, my dad died, and at the same time, I met my wife Amy. So
wow.
lots of flux and change and dramatic events.
Mm. I just find, for myself, we're about the same age. I'm 44, be 45 this year.
Mm,
But
mm,
but
midlife.
I know. Hold on. But there's something I think that happens to people in this middle age, sort of time where you start looking at the life that you've lived and the balance of your life, and you're like, wow, is this all there is? Because if what I have lived is it, I'm not sure that I want to keep doing this. There's got to be more. And I know for me, I've same kind of story. I was doing things that were safe and predictable, and I enjoyed doing them, but they were not, the full expression of me. And when I started doing my baskets and sculpture, and the Lord started blessing that and opening up business opportunities for that and all, it really felt like the real me started to wake up. And I don't know if you've had that experience, but it just starts to feel like all of a sudden, okay, wow, yeah. I feel like I'm starting to hit on all cylinders, and it's an incredible thing. It's risky, obviously, and scary, at the same time, but it's so fulfilling. So, how did the Lord continue to kind of confirm that artistic calling in you over the years?
Through like Amy and I went to church, and we went through these programs at church in California at EV Free. There was a program called The Journey, and
Mm,
it was wrapped around spiritual development and spiritual really shifting from the shoulds and the morality to letting the Holy Spirit in and letting Jesus into your weeds of your life. And then
mm,
through that, for the first time, I started to listen to God. It was crazy. I mean, I prayed all the time. God, give me this. God, help me with that. God, what's going on? But I never stopped to listen. And then I got this book called Joyful Journey, and I decided I'm going to journal. And I started journaling, and I just was writing my thoughts and hopes and complaints to God. And then I let the pen down, and then I let God answer. And
wow.
the pen started moving. And what came out of that was not my words. You look on the page, it's not the way I write, it's not the words that I use,
Mm,
but God was affirming, and he encouraged me. He told me he loved me. And he said, I've given you gifts and passions, and I want you to pursue those. And so my wife and I, she came up with this idea. She's like, why don't you take a 1 year sabbatical? Take Stop working for an entire year, because she had heard a TED talk where this guy did that, and he was more successful than he had ever been.
Wow.
And so we talked about it. She said, Clive, the way we're moving, I'd rather be homeless than the where we're at. You're coming home with empty batteries. You're grabbing a glass of wine every night, and you have nothing left for us.
Yeah.
And I agreed. So that's what I did. I consulted with some people. I had about 8 months worth of money in the bank to sustain us, and I just quit my job. I laid my keys on the counter. And
Wow.
Matt, I know I tell you that when that happened, I felt more power in me than all the years with all of those big bunches of keys, like with all of the authority, my signature. It was God was saying, yes, I'm going to take you on a journey.
Wow. That
And
is
that's
so encouraging. I know to so many, because it's like there comes a point where you have to step out. You're old enough to remember Indiana Jones, right? In the Last
yeah,
Crusade. And, where he's walking, finally goes to meet the knight, that's been guarding the Holy Grail. And he gets to that cliff and he's got to step out. And the book says there's a bridge here. And yet he's looking and there's no bridge. And as he started to step, the bridge appeared. And I just love that. And it's so encouraging to hear that your wife was supportive of that. I've got the same kind of story with my wife. She has been so incredibly supportive of my journey. And, she's very much an administrator and kind of the organized money person and all that sort of thing. And I'm like the artsy one, over here. And I just, I think that's part of maturing in marriage too, right? Is learning to value what your spouse brings to the relationship and learning to trust the Lord in them. And
mm,
I know I can hear that in your voice that y'all have learned to do that in your own relationship. So,
yeah. And I've learned over the years that my wife has discernment, and that
mm.
I mean, as a man, I'm like, no, I'm the one that has the idea. Like, but I've learned to listen to her,
Yeah,
and things happen when I listen to her.
that's so
Um,
good.
and she said, "Hey, why don't you talk to our friend Doug? He just bought a house in North Carolina." Uh, and I did, and I ended up going on a solitude retreat for 2.5 weeks, just me and God, working out all of my issues. And at the tail end of that trip, God said, "Go into this little town of Asheville, tell people what I put on your heart, what your passion is, and then that's all I'm going to tell you is just do that." I'm like, okay. So I did. I had conversations, and I ended up at the Village Potters. I talked to Lori Terrio, and she said, "Hey, you know what? Everything you're telling me, come back and talk to Sarah Rowland, the owner." And so I did. The day before I left, I talked to her for 2 hours. We talked, and she had this idea and this program that God had been putting on her heart to set up potters who were serious about potting and ceramic arts, and put this program of mentorship together.
Mm,
And it was just coming to fruition. And she said, "Clive, I think this is what you're saying."
wow.
And so at the end of that, like she called a couple of people together, hey, hey, and they laid hands on me and they prayed for me. And I'm like, what is happening in California? In my circles, this is weird, but it's good. This is cool. And so I went home and we prayed over it. And I said, Amy, I think God's calling us to sell our family house, leave all of our friends and family, and move to this town called Asheville to study ceramics. It,
Wow.
it was crazy.
Wow. And I've known George and Sarah Rowland for all the years that I've been here in Asheville. They were some of the key people that the Lord used in my life to help me step into what I'm doing now. And what a faithful, incredible couple who love the Lord and have such a gift, not only in entrepreneurship, but also in mentoring and community. And all those folks over there. I mean, Lori and Melanie and Judy and all of them. I love them. So now you're here in Asheville and you're in this program, and what is that looking like now? And because I think a lot of people underestimate the time and the years, hours of preparation that it takes to be able to get to a place to sell your art in the marketplace and be able to rely on it for income. So what's that journey looking like for you right now, and what's next on your immediate horizon?
Yeah, I thought, hey, I'm going to go through this program and things are going to be peachy and I'll be selling art in no time. But that has not been the case. Um, so I went through a year and a half of the mentorship program and then finished 6 months early. It's not like a certificate program,
Right.
but we finished, and then a new opportunity opened up that Sarah created, an incubator studio where instead of getting more hands-on creative learning, we would be leasing a space, and she would help us set up and get into business within a year. And so
Wow.
that's where I am. I'm in my studio there at the Village Potters, and I go in and I'm developing my body of work, and I think that's been the most challenging thing for me is that getting that body of work defined and cohesive and finding my voice. That's been challenging.
So what are some of the things that you're finding through that process that are working for you and really helping you to push through?
Yeah, I've some of the biggest things is being obedient and disciplined. Um, Sarah had told me long ago. She said, um, find a pot that you want to make, and then make a series of them. Make 12, make 20, and then and get good at that one thing. Um, and then make series of pots, and I just resisted, and I tried everything under the sun. I saw videos on YouTube, and I'm like, oh man, I got to try that. That's so awesome. I'm going to do that. So I was scattered all over the place. So really, once I finally started being disciplined and trying to repeat the same form over and over, I find that not only my skill has increased, but my creative ideas have been coming like crazy. I mean, I have to put a notepad by my bed so that
Mm.
when I wake up, I have to draw this sketch of something that came through because I've been doing the same thing over again, and I see visions of what it could be.
We talk so much in the mentoring program about how boundaries, in our creative process really do release freedom and creativity. And that I couldn't have said this more beautifully than what you're saying. So I just love that. Are you starting to sell your work then in the gallery there, or doing shows or website? How are you developing all of that as well?
I'm working on a website right now, and it should be up and running pretty soon. The problem in that was the body of work. I needed
Mm.
to hone that down and have that represent me. But and I'm developing that body of work. I've been at a couple of shows and sold my work there. I've gone back to California and sold at an open house a couple of times, and that
Mm.
was really successful. And so right at this point, I'm wanting to go to some craft fairs and little summer farmers markets, get rid of my old stuff, and then really focus on my new brand, which is really developing at this point. And then I'll be in the gallery at the Village Potters when that happens, when I've got that body of work together. That's
How wonderful. You
yeah.
know, how is, as you're going through all of this, because it's a fast paced life that you're living right now, a lot of things to juggle. How's your inner life? How's the inner conversation with the Lord, him speaking, leading and guiding you through the process, and your own uh, foundational identity sort of things, like, yes, I am an artist, yes, God has called me to this, yes. I mean, is that coming naturally? Is that something you're really having to press in for? How's that flowing with you?
A lot of work with God has to happen in that
Mm.
area. Um, it, I produce work, and others say, "Wow, we love your work, Clive. Your work is awesome." But I'm telling you, Matt, like I look at my pieces and I see the flaws, and
Mm.
I see that how much it could be better, and so it's not too long after I make a piece that I think, that's really a piece of garbage. But so I work on the next one and then the next one. So God's really like been working with me to value what I've created, no
Mm.
matter at what stage it's been, and remember that I have worth as I need to find my identity in Christ and not defined by the work that I've done over the years. And that's been what the Holy Spirit has been coaching and leading me in, is finding my identity in Christ.
That's so good. That's
Yeah.
so good. It's always the foundation for everything. And you can also remember, I always say, no matter how bad you think it is, somebody will buy it. And so
It's true.
it's just true. And so, we overanalyze and, oh, this is horrible and all that sort of thing. I remember years ago when I was first starting to do some freeform work with my basketry, I had started this big piece that I had really big hopes for. And I was talking to somebody in the studio. They kind of walked in, and the more they talked, the more aggravated I got. And instead of this being this really beautiful kind of bulbous, big, round, beautiful thing, it turned into this kind of shrunken up, really tight woven. And so I finished it, begrudgingly after a few days, and set it on the bottom shelf. And it sat there for a couple of years. And a lady came into a class one day, and at the end of the class, she said, "Well, Matt, I really want to have a piece of your work, something that really speaks to your artistry and just, really complimentary." And so she said, "I'm just going to take some time and walk around the gallery." And doggone it, if she didn't find that old basket on the bottom shelf, and she brought it back, and she said, "Matt, of all the baskets that you've ever created, this is the one that says Matt Tommy to me the most." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is the worst thing I've ever created."
That's like a bad haircut.
I know. But I charged her, and I said, "Thank you so much." And, she went right on. And it's just amazing the things that we think are just, totally not going to sell and not going to be worth anything. They sell, and the Lord uses it in our process. So it's all good. Hey, I know that there are people out there on the podcast right now who are younger than you, older than you, but are in that same place that you were 4, 5, 6 years ago, where you were in that place of saying, "Wow, I know there's more. God, I know you put this gift in me, but I just don't know what to do. I don't know if I have what it takes to be able to step out and take a big risk," like I'm hearing Clive say that he did. What would you say to them?
I'd really have to say that what you need to get through is that insecurity in yourself and that fear, and you have to identify what that fear is. For me, it was fear of success, and it was fear of failure at the same time. And then let the Lord into that, and just know that that God has created you for glory. He is behind you. He wants for your well-being. And like, so turn that into conviction for your art, into passion for your art. And then the biggest thing is to treat it like a business. Like for so long, I treated it like a hobby, and I would just give away my stuff and or price it for pennies. And then I came to the realization that a business is not going to work if I continue.
That's
So
right.
treat it in your mind as a business, as the job that you depend on for your livelihood, for your family, and commit to the time, commit to learning and growing, and never stop learning. And once you take the step of faith and walk in that direction, and you're listening to the Lord, He will open up the doors and windows and light the path. It may be a small way. He may light one stone at a time, but it will happen.
Yeah.
And you will grow. You will find solutions to problems. People will come into your life that you never thought would, and that will collaborate with you. I met Tori Motil in the pottery class and at the Village Potters, and then we ended up brainstorming an entire ceramic arts festival called the North Carolina Ceramic Arts Festival.
Wow.
We did our first show last year, and we're going to do our next show here in Pack Square, and we envision this thing to be an event that people come to North Carolina and come to Asheville.
Wow.
Just to see. And that was just taking a step of faith and then putting the diligence behind it, and seeing it to fruition. Yeah.
I'm just amazed at every artist I talk to, not only on the podcast, but just in life, when you hear their story, there is this grit, this holy grit. This is like, it was hard, but I never gave up. And, it's like that verse, the righteous fall 7 times, but get back up. And it's, we're not defined in our falling, but we're defined in the willingness to get back up. And you are just such an inspiration, Clive, of living the life that God designed you to live and doing it with integrity and authenticity and that grit that really is what it takes to do that. So thank you so much, man, for being on the podcast. And I know that your story is going to be a huge encouragement to so many that are out there. Hey, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me today on the podcast. Listen, I hope it's been a huge encouragement to you on your journey as an artist. Hey, also, before you leave, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other episodes of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. And also, be sure to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or at my website, which is matttommymentoring.com. Until next time, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye-bye.